Hello, and welcome to the very first UdderTwaddle podcast.
Very first, very number one.
Number one. I am Cowmando,
I'm Cowpatty.
and we would like to welcome you to the show.
Welcome. This is our, I don't know how to explain it, our podcast, right? This
Yes.
is what it's called?
Yes, it is called a podcast. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the talking that we're not used to doing for a while.
Not for a while.
We used to do a lot of talking
Yes.
about
10 years ago, we hosted a radio show, actually two different radio shows.
online. Yep.
On World of Role Players Radio, an online radio station focused on online gaming.
Yeah. Back when they, let you play radio stations and music online without having to pay for it.
Well, you can still stream music, but you
can stream it, but you can't host it now unless you pay for it.
You can, but you have to pay royalties, for the right to stream, which all the online services do now anyway. Spotify and all the rest of them do it, but they pay for subscriptions and
I still haven't gotten subscribed to
for.
any audio subscriptions. I just find music when I want it.
Exactly.
It's basically how it goes. Anywho, again, I'm Cowpatty. This is Cowmando. And if you're curious why we're cows, it would be because we came up with the names back then when we did the radio station.
Yes. Had the Cowmando name came about based on a character I had created when I was playing an online MMO.
City of Heroes.
Is kind of redundant. City of Heroes. Mm-hmm.
For all those old people that don't
had created a superhero that was cow-themed, with horns and an assault rifle and everything. Instead of being a commando, he was a Cowmando.
Mm-hmm. And so, I wanted to have a name that was very similar to that because we're a couple. We've been married for quite some time. And, so I wanted to come up with something funny. And he showed me this song by Jim Safford, which is a very old, very funny country song, and it was called Cowpatty. And I just thought that would be a hilarious name to just take because it's also making fun of myself, and I do like puns and irony. So, okay. So I'm Cowpatty. That's just basically where it came from.
Yep. And we've kind of been using the names and going by them, ever since.
So if you want to call me Patty, you can. You can call him Mando. Perfectly fine. No big deal.
Yep. But like I said, we were doing the radio show, and we stopped doing it in, I don't know, 2000. It's been a little over 10 years. 2007, 2008. And there have been times since then that, we've missed doing the show and being able to have the fun. So we decided to put together a podcast and kind of be like doing the show without all the music.
Yeah, and we like to sit around and talk about music and movies and books just between ourselves.
Yeah, all the things that we're really interested in. Like I said, movies, books, music, comics, video games, our various hobbies.
I mean, I crochet, I draw, I do mixed media art occasionally. I do all kinds of stuff. He does giant Nerf hobby.
I work in the IT field, so I tinker with electronics and small single board computers like Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, dealing with projects like that. Mm-hmm. I also have a Nerf blaster collection that I work on, doing modifications to those.
And we have a 3D printer.
Springs, motors.
He makes parts.
Things like that. 3D printer. So, I, print out, accessories and
they're all really cool.
Yeah. Different attachments and stuff for the Nerf blasters.
And occasionally I use some of those same techniques and design things. I am trained to be a designer. I put air quotes, you can't see.
Yeah.
But I did stuff like, designed our light switches down in our living room and stuff like that.
Well, the switch plates, not the switches themselves.
Yeah, you're correct. Those switch plates, they look really cool.
Just a lot of a lot of creativity and just creative outlets.
We're very creative, just in our own.
Like I said,
heads.
With the mods and paint jobs and stuff like that. We also both like to cook.
This is why we have a big kitchen.
I mostly bake cakes, cheesecakes, cookies, bread, baklava.
So good.
Make fudge and candied nuts and just all kinds of...
Yeah, Christmas is the best because there's like candied nuts downstairs and fudge and a cheesecake with peppermint in it. Oh.
Yeah. And she does a lot of cooking. So,
I love
look
to
up
cook.
a lot of recipes and come up with, new twists and, variations.
I'm terrible, though, about modifying recipes. Like, I grab a recipe and I look at it and I go, that would be great, but I want this instead.
Yeah. She has to,
I never
she has
do
to
the same
Bobby
thing
Flay
twice.
everything where, she can't just do something traditional. She's
I gotta
got
add
to
a twist to it.
Yeah, give it a twist. Try and go over the top with it.
But I'm good at it. Okay?
Yes.
I am good at it.
But, sometimes, just the classic comfort food is what you're looking for. You don't have to, go over the top. Sometimes when you just want mac and cheese, you want mac and cheese. You don't have to have mac and cheese.
I want the melty baked mac and cheese with added bacon or something else
and bacon
to it.
bits and, 6 kinds of cheeses.
Hey, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way.
I mean, it's good, but sometimes you're looking for a specific flavor, so...
We like food. It's just kind of hard. We like good food, like flavored food, good seasoning. I'm not a snob about it. I mean, I'll go eat IHOP and stuff
not a
whatever.
food snob, by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, we like good food, but I'm not so much of a food snob that
we appreciate good food.
I'm,
if you give
I'm
me something
too good
that's amazing,
to crack open a packet of ramen and
it.
just eat ramen or eat a frozen dinner
or just cereal's fine.
Yeah,
I mean. It's entirely possible, but then there's those days where I just want to stop and make some roasted vegetables and like a seasoned pork chops, and you make fresh baked bread, and voila, dinner.
But like I said, sometimes those comfort foods you grew up eating are what you're craving, and at times those are very simplistic. Like just basic mac and cheese out of a box, or
comfort
ramen,
food is comfort food.
Yeah,
or from some other country, maybe just fish and chips is your comfort food. That's your thing.
Could be.
But anyway, that's just a little bit of us.
Yeah, that's some of the topics we'll be discussing from here on out on the show,
and we do go and watch a lot of movies. We stream a lot of movies, and that's kind of our big thing on a regular basis.
Yeah,
so
for the most part we're homebodies, almost hermit-like. We stay home, in the
except for work,
the comfort of we do
have
work,
a job,
but I mean
jobs.
We mostly in the evenings, we'll stay home. We'll watch movies, TV shows. Work on our hobbies. We do go out to a lot of movies, but I mean we don't go out and like go clubbing or do concerts every other weekend and stuff like that.
I'm more of I'd rather go marathon like 3 movies at the movie theater on a weekend if I have the money for it.
Yeah.
That would be like joy.
But yeah, we do a lot of movies. We do a lot of books, And
this year's been a really good year for movies.
Yes.
It has been a very good year for movies.
A good year for, the superhero genre.
Yes.
Early on in the beginning of the year, we had Black Panther that came out, which was a very excellent movie.
Loved Black Panther. I mean,
great cast.
Oh, the design of everything just made me giddy, and the music gave me chills every time. Yes, I just loved it.
Absolutely loved that movie. Looking forward to more of those. The Avengers: Infinity War.
Yes.
Very good.
It was
movie.
Good.
Enjoyed it a lot. Emotional movie.
Would you call it a tragedy? I mean, in its own way? Because I kind of see it as like the superhero version of a tragedy. Like, I don't know.
Yes and no, because, I mean, everything has been kind of leading up to this.
You knew it was going to happen, and it's not a spoiler. It was
bound to happen that there was eventually going to be some casualties.
A super shakeup,
considering in all of the separate hero movies, their individual Thor, Iron Man movies, Captain America movies, and the villains, that eventually there were going to be some casualties.
Yeah, but it all at once, and seeing like half of them go, it's just kind of that the feels. It's killing me.
Yeah.
So rewatching that movie is like rewatching a superhero equivalent of like Joy Luck Club. You know how bad it is. You've never seen that, so I'm
No,
bad comparison for you. But other people would be like, it hurts, but I love it.
But we've got Avengers 4 Endgame coming out next year. That we will, be able to see how they're going to recover from this and try and move forward. So I'm looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to Captain Marvel. I am so fiending over every trailer that comes out.
That one looks really, really good.
Super chick, yes.
Really, looking forward to that one. But as far as, our 2018 year in review.
Oh, well, I mean,
beyond
flip side of Marvel, the DC universe.
Well, don't go jumping ahead yet.
Oh, okay.
After Infinity War, we had Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yes.
The sequel
I
to
liked that one.
The initial Ant-Man movie that was very entertaining. Ant-Man and Wasp was really good.
I thought it was really good, but I feel like it was kind of the lesser of the set of movies this year.
Well,
I mean, it was like, okay, great, you've got
it helps
the
to
super
explain
awesome Black Panther, and then Infinity War, this epicness, and then you get the comic relief of Ant-Man.
Well, it helps to explain. You had Ant-Man that came out, and then Ant-Man showed up in Captain America Civil War. But then he wasn't in Infinity War.
Yes,
but Ant-Man and Wasp explains what he was doing at that time when it happened.
He was stuck at home.
And
basically,
if you haven't seen Ant-Man and Wasp yet, and you do watch all the way through, to
save the very, very end.
The end credit scenes that Marvel has become famous for, and it ties the movie into...
It ties into Infinity, like where he wasn't that exact moment. It gives it the
tie-in as to what he was doing, and
I think that's what they've been doing.
At the time is
the end of the subsequent individual movies. It ties into where Infinity War.
Yeah, it ties into whatever the next movie is going to be.
So they all line up
and uses it to stitch together.
But you have no idea how happy I was watching the new Avengers trailer and seeing Ant-Man show up. I was like, oh my god, yes, he's gonna be in it.
Yes, and Hawkeye.
Yes,
is going to be back.
Oh my god, I was like,
Endgame.
He was a significant absence in a lot of movies.
It will explain, where and why he didn't show up in.
I'm betting
Infinity
he showed up
War.
now because his family was affected. That's just my own instinct on this.
Because that is being tossed around as
you mess with my family, I'm
an explanation. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see how it comes out, next year. Like you said, along with Captain Marvel, it looks really good, coming out next year.
Every trailer I see, it's Brie Larson, right?
Yes, yeah. Brie Larson is playing
I just adore
Captain Marvel.
Her acting. I think she's going to be fantastic. I think
it looks really good.
It's going to lead into a very strong female role, which I'm happy.
Oh yeah, because she is badass.
In the comics too?
Yes. Yeah. Captain Marvel is a badass.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're going to portray
Cowmando
her
has read
in
way
the
more
movie.
comics than I have. I should just point that out. He has.
Yes, I used to be a comic fanatic. Years and years and years ago. I had a huge collection.
That
and
over the years subsequently got
everything.
Lost or tossed out or tragic things happened.
Yeah.
So
we're not going to go into
we'll not go into that. But you would be more of an expert than I am as far as comics goes.
Well, I'm quite a bit out of touch with modern incarnations because
I did read some of the new 52
major
stuff.
universes, Marvel and DC, have gone through and rebooted quite a few times over the last decade or so. DC, Marvel has gone through a reboot a couple of times. DC's gone through a reboot a couple of times. Things have changed. Kind of origin stories have altered. A little bit, and
and I know that I hear the things on the news or other things about how there's a female Thor now and all these other changes they've made to the universe. So I'm really kind of curious how that is, but at the same time, I just don't have the effort. I don't have the urge to go out to a comic shop and go buy them.
Well, I do, but for me that's a very slippery slope because I get kind of fanatical in collecting.
Yeah, if you collect, you collect.
I go out and say, I'm a massive Batman fan. Love Batman.
Oh yes.
So if I went out and just bought the Batman title. Let's say they're on issue 27 right now.
You'd have
if
to
I
go
go
back
out
and
I
buy
buy 27
1 to
and read it, I'm going to have to go back and buy 1 through 26. I'll have to find all of them, to read up. And then next month when 28 comes out, I'll have to get it.
And then if there's a story arc that spins
off. If it
off.
crosses over and references, say, something that happened, because there's like 4 or 5 different Batman titles. There's just straight Batman, and then there's, Batman the Dark Knight, and there's Batman and Robin, and this,
and
Batman
who knows
this
how
and
many
Batman
are out
that.
now.
Well,
yeah.
if something, in Batman 27 references or crosses over with, say, the new issue of Batman and Robin, then I'm going to have to get Batman and Robin to read it to, fully connect with what's going on in Batman 27. Well, if that's Batman and Robin, 21, I'll get 21, but then I've got to go and get 1 through 20
See, that's
so that it's complete. And, next thing you know, within a couple of months, I'm buying all like 12 different, Batman-themed series, that could be, Batman and Robin, and the Dark Knight, and, that's going to tie into having to read, the Justice League. And then I'll be, reading, Batgirl and Batwoman and, Nightwing and...
then
you got Batwing,
the Teen Titans, and they go back up.
Because it references,
possible.
It references something, with Red Robin, who is, in Teen Titans. So suddenly I'm reading Teen Titans. Well, I'm reading Teen Titans, and I'm also having to read Justice League, which will tie into something with Superman. That so I'll have to pick up Superman and start reading Superman.
It's a slippery slope.
And Teen Titans, will reference something with Superboy because he's in Teen Titans and has his own separate title, and then suddenly I'm reading Superboy, and then Supergirl and Superman.
We've
and Wonder
established
Woman. And next thing you know, I'm buying everything in the DC universe every month, which is costing tons and tons of money, and it is an extremely slippery slope. Exactly.
So that's not possible.
So I kind of have to,
let's just avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we can. You do have issues. Well, I don't say issues. You do have the ability to pick up things like decorative for your office. You have things like from Justice League, and you have things to kind of
the Kotobukiya statues that I've collected.
Those
of
are
the
fabulous.
Justice League, and
love things like that.
Yeah. I have my office that I refer to as the Batcave, kind of decorated up in comic stuff.
Mine is a wizard's tower. That's a whole other topic.
Now my Nerf blaster arsenal hanging on the wall. But yeah.
And you now have a nice big trident hanging sitting against your wall.
For Christmas, I got an Aquaman trident, prop replica from the new Aquaman movie.
Yeah.
Got it, life size, full height.
It's slightly higher than you, I think.
Replica, of Aquaman's, trident. And if you haven't seen the new Aquaman movie, then I would recommend you go see it. It is fantastic.
It's awesome.
We saw a sort of a sneak preview of it a week before its full blown release.
Yeah, Amazon was giving out like sneak previews to their Prime members, sort of thing. So
and we went to it, and oh my god, it is fantastic.
It is epic. It is a good story. It's also funny at points. Everybody kept asking me what it was like, and I tried to just summarize it as, look, it was almost better than Justice League. I hate to say that because I like all the people in Justice League, but as far as the story goes and the whole vastness of it, I liked it better than Justice League. They were different types of stories. Yeah.
So trying to say it was a better story than the other, they're different types of stories. But this one was, for this story, the content, the goal was written better, comparatively than the way the Justice League story was written. And I loved all the people in the Justice League. Henry Cavill is a fantastic Superman. I love Ben Affleck as Batman.
I'm sad that he's not going to be involved in this anymore.
Well,
or is he? There's like
I've not seen any confirmation of that. There's been a lot of rumor. There was a lot of rumor that Henry Cavill was no longer going to be Superman.
But then they said yes,
Jason
he was.
Momoa has come out and said no, he is. It's confirmed no, he is not done as Superman. And
I think we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Oh, yes.
Incredibly
She's
fantastic. You know,
I love her.
Perfect as Wonder Woman. So the casting I've liked. DC is evolving their cinematic universe. And, you know, subsequently...
They're trying to catch up to where Marvel has developed theirs. And I think they're
with each movie that comes out,
pitfalls.
they're evolving and streamlining, you know, the writing and how they want to present. And Aquaman is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more humor.
Yes.
In Aquaman, it's not as dark and gritty as everyone would expect from a DC movie. I
think they need that.
Batman versus Superman and, you know, Justice League, you know, Man of Steel, and so on. Wonder Woman, there was, you know, a lot of good humor in it, fantastic action, you know, good casting, good, you know, acting.
You can't have a 100% serious movie. It's just...
Aquaman, like I said, has, you know, evolved that, and it was fantastic. Loved it. I will probably see it again a few times.
Whenever we get a chance to.
As soon as it comes out on Blu-ray, we'll buy it, and I'll watch it probably a couple hundred times. Yes.
Well, and you just said this morning that it looked like it made more money than any of the other movies.
Yeah, it's been announced this is its second weekend, you know, in theaters and second weekend at number 1, and it's already, you know, in its second weekend grossed more than Man of Steel did, more than Justice League did, and more than I'm drawing a blank.
Are you talking about Batman and Superman?
No.
Which one?
Suicide Squad. That's the one.
Yeah.
It's already grossed more than Suicide Squad, and this is its second weekend in theaters.
It's gonna make
That's how well it's been doing, and how much it was anticipated. A lot of people were looking forward to it.
I was looking forward to just, in the very least, a very amazing representation of Aquaman.
Yes, and that's exactly what this is. For the longest time, and you know, we were discussing, you have discussed this in the last week or so. Aquaman was always looked at as a joke. You know,
he was the guy who
his superhero
talks to fish.
And that, from the very beginning, when it was announced that Jason Momoa was going to be cast as Aquaman, that was his big goal, was to
make it
represent
good.
Just, you know, how badass, you know, Arthur Curry actually is.
Yeah,
that he's not just, you know, the guy that swims around and talks to fish. He is super strong. Mm-hmm. You know, he is, you know, basically bulletproof.
Yeah.
You know, he is agile. He is, like I said, super strong, bulletproof. He is a badass. I mean, he's got not just the ability, you know, to talk to fish, you know, but...
That's a really dumbed down representation of Aquaman, and it's been that way for a long time. Yeah. So this movie just blows that joke, out of the water, pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the water, you know, he's, you know, kind of helpless or worthless and can't do anything outside the water, which is not true.
I had someone ask me if it was like Little Mermaid on steroids, and I just laughed because I was like, you know what, maybe, but...
Yeah, the Little Merman. Uh-huh.
I just thought that was hilarious.
But yeah, that was his goal, was, you know, to really represent, you know,
but I'm
Aquaman
so glad it's
you know,
getting the attention that it deserves.
The great hero that he is. And yeah,
and there are movies that don't get the attention they deserve. I mean, there's some that, you know, peter out and box office. I mean, okay, for example, not a couple of days ago, we went and saw Mortal Engines, which we Friday saw a trailer, like one. I've only seen maybe 2 trailers on it.
Seen a couple of trailers over, I don't know, the last 6 months maybe?
Yeah, 6 months I've maybe seen 2 trailers, and I went, that actually looks really cool. Mainly because it looks very steampunky, and it looks like a really cool universe as far as that goes, because I'd never seen a real amazing steampunk movie represented. You know, it's just, I like the style of steampunk, and I think it's a cool thing, so that's why I went personally to go see it.
You don't see a lot of, you know, good steampunk themed stuff. I mean, just off the top of my head,
at the very least there might be one other movie,
like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah,
from years ago, that was, you know, kind of steampunk themed, like, with some of the technology
there's something new out that's different, and I didn't really research it very much. So we went and saw it, and it was great.
Yeah, based off a book. Not read the book. You know, had never heard of the book until I saw the trailer, you know, for the movie, and found out it was based on a book. But
yeah,
it was a really good
series.
movie. It was well done. It's another one of those, post-apocalyptic.
It's like a
young, reader series, where there's been some big globally devastating war and society is having to recover and
society basically got too advanced and
sort of rebuild
full of itself, and I guess it decided to blow itself up.
Yeah,
in its own
basically, way. Bombed itself back into the quote unquote Stone Age,
and so
with a
this
lot
is
more
where
primitive steampunk style technology.
What would you say? It's like decades later after that. I mean, I can't remember what the time frame looks like.
1,000 years or so in the future.
Yeah, so everything from our age right now is like ancient technology.
Not to really spoil the movie, but there is one really funny scene
at the very beginning
where one of the main characters, is she pulls out, a munchie stash.
Oh, that's like
actually an old packet of Twinkies.
I mean, that's like 1,000-year-old Twinkie.
The way the wrapper was, kind of
faded and
faded, all you could really read was Inkies. And that's what she referred to them as, they're Inkies, And he's like one of the other characters, the male character, is like, that's got to be 1,000 years old. And she's like, well, this is the food of the ancients. It doesn't go bad.
Which is a great gag.
Because everybody knows that, after a nuclear war, the only things that will survive are roaches and Twinkies.
Yeah, but you know what? I never saw a roach. That is the one thing I pointed out after the fact, is I never saw any animals, bugs.
Yes.
Anything.
The Twinkies survived, but apparently
the animals didn't?
No animal life.
So I was really concerned and confused. What are they eating?
All
okay, let me
vegetation
read it.
And
never read the books. So this is all just me going to the movie itself. But I guess it's just plants and that's it. And that's all you get.
Because
you can get good protein from plants.
You don't see any animals, no horses, no cows, dogs, cats, sheep, pigs.
Nothing.
No animals, no bugs,
I would have
no
to rewatch it to
wildlife
be sure,
of
but
any kind. The only food you see referenced, they talk about an algae-based tea that was, brewed, and everything looks like all the food looks like some sort of goo or
slop or
slop pudding or jellied
there was some stuff that looked like jelly grits. It was just ew, but okay. I mean, it's fantasy. I get it.
We can only assume that after this big massive global destructive war that fallout killed off all the wildlife or
something. Maybe the people only survived in bunkers and the people were the only ones there.
Could be.
Nobody took their pets? Come on.
Any surface animals, were killed off, during the war. But they refer to it as the 60-minute war. It only took humanity an hour to basically destroy the world and destroy civilization.
And so, just to recap, basically the movie it's really excellent. It's well done. The props are amazing. The acting was great. It's a bit of a revenge story. How do I explain? I mean, it's a giant machinery type that is cities, and then you've got static cities and moving cities, and it's just really cool. And I would recommend it to any fantasy enthusiast, anybody who likes,
definitely,
steampunk, anybody who liked the Hunger Games and all those movies. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, but as we were talking about it in the beginning, is it didn't seem to really be marketed or promoted that much.
Yeah, I didn't see that much promotion.
I don't think it's doing as well as it could if they had really, promoted the hell out of it.
I don't know if the studio just felt like it was not worth it to do it because of all the other movies that are out. I mean, Bumblebee came out shortly after that,
and then need to
Aquaman was out the same time as Mortal Engines. I mean, I think it was just an awkward time for the movie to come out, and it's not making as much as it should.
Well, and you've got to think about that whenever you're setting your release date. Is look at what else is coming out that same weekend.
Yeah, it just got ate up with holiday movies too.
You don't want to release your movie the same weekend that say Avengers 4 Endgame is going to come out. Because you've got to know going into it that Endgame is going to get all the ticket sales.
Yeah, the audience that's going to go watch that is,
and that's what people are going to be watching. And your movie, if it's not Endgame, your movie's not going to get watched that weekend.
Yeah, but I will say it's pretty much inspired me to read the book. I mean, I'm really interested in picking it up now. So
definitely something to look into.
I haven't read that many books this year. I've only read, like, physically, I've only read one book this year, like, physical book, because I just felt like picking it up and reading it. But we do audiobooks.
I tend to do more audiobooks. I do like reading actual, print books, flipping pages. But just due to convenience, at work and stuff like that, I tend to lean more towards audiobooks.
Well, you can keep your hands
because, like
free.
I said, I work in the IT field, so I work with my hands. And all of my hobbies involve me working with my hands, with baking or, working on electronics or, Nerf mods and stuff. My hands are busy, so I can, if I'm listening to an audiobook, I can still get, my books in while I'm doing other stuff.
I used to fit in my reading time around at work if things were slow. Like, a while back, for like a decade, I worked in like a police communication 911 dispatcher position, and I had to keep my hands completely free. I had to keep my ears available for anything, or I had to keep my ears available for anything, and hands available. So occasionally I would pick up a book and read physically and then put it down. Now I work in an office where I constantly have my hands busy and I constantly have to do stuff. So if I get a chance, I can put one earphone in if it's slow and listen to an audiobook, because audiobooks are just that convenient. Yeah,
they're very convenient. As far as new books this year,
I mean, you've got more than I have.
Yeah, I finally jumped into a world that I've been interested in for a very long time, but never actually took the time to get the books themselves, and that's the Warhammer 40,000 world.
Which I've seen the miniatures in comic book stores.
Based off a miniatures game. A combat, tabletop game, where you play with miniatures, strategy and...
Talk about an expensive hobby.
Building armies, yes, the miniatures are expensive. It is a very expensive hobby to
But there's tons of books. I mean, tons.
But I got into the series, it's called the Horus Heresy.
Is it like the Egyptian Horus? No.
Well, Horus as in the Egyptian god, yes. Okay. It's spelled the same, but it's the world and theme of the books is not Egyptian based.
Okay.
It's in the 41st millennium. It's 40,000 plus as far as the year.
Many things have changed.
It involves the human imperium that has launched out into the stars and is trying to systematically subjugate planets under its rule to
sci-fi-ish
to organize. It is futuristic sci-fi. Yes,
I thought it was more fantasy based. So it's more sci-fi, or is it both?
It's sci-fi.
Okay.
Futuristic, out in space, power armor.
Okay.
Technology. And weapons, and this kind of covers looks like it covers the history so far of the split in the Imperium that sort of created more of the chaos forces that follow some of the chaos gods of the void, such as Nurgle and Tzeentch and things of that nature.
Which makes no sense to me, but okay.
No, they're just they're referred to as the chaos gods. They're chaos powers. But there are other races. There are orcs and there are the Eldar, which are elf. Offshoots, and you've got the Dark Eldar that are kind of the not really less structured, but
so are they from different planets?
Orderly. There are different planets.
Are each race from different planets, kind of thing, or?
Well, each race has different planets.
Okay.
But yeah, they're different races. Orcs are orcs. They're green and savage, and in comparison to humans.
I was just curious about if it's all.
And each race has, millennia-long, history that, you can learn about. But
that sounds really involved. I mean,
pardon
just
me.
Seriously involved.
It is. The Horus Heresy book series, at current count, consists of 49 books.
Yikes.
An extremely long series.
Well, I guess if you got lots of time on your hands.
I've only gotten through the first 3 books, and
It'll take you a while.
I'm enjoying it, quite a bit.
That would probably take me at least 3 years if I constantly read.
It will take me several years to get caught up, and probably by then it'll be
some series are worth it,
or
though.
more books. Yes, but yeah, I'm enjoying it and looking forward to continuing on with it. Other books, other series that I got into this year, The Armored Saint by Myke Cole.
I have
it's
no
a
idea.
new series. It's another futuristic. It's not so much focused on. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic world,
From the title, it reminds me of like the Knights Templar or something.
Well, yes, there's sort of steampunk technology. It doesn't really specify that it's on Earth.
So it's just another world.
It could be another world, a different society. It could be, past, like early.
It's not really explained. It's just kind of left out there for you to figure out.
It's a lot more primitive, like I said, steampunkish in the style of technology, where they have these armored siege engines and weapons, and it's another really, really good. It's kind of a steampunk sci-fi crossed with fantasy, because, like I said, it's more of a fantasy timeline with steampunk technology.
I do like the unique concept books. I mean,
and it's another one kind of like that that's really good.
I pick up the ones that are just unique and odd to me. Typically, I just find them in bookstores. Like the one I physically read this year was Neal Shusterman's Scythe series, because I liked the cover. I thought it was neat, and it's about this futuristic society where everybody's figured out, technology is so amazing, and we figured out how to basically not die. There's no war, there's no disease, there's no nothing. You can live forever, and you can actually reset your body to a different age and then live all over again. So you get to a certain age in your life, and then you reset to teenager again and then start all over. So you can have multiple marriages or multiple families and stuff like that. But if that really did happen, it does tackle this.
Start over and ruin your life in a whole different way this time around.
Exactly. But if you couldn't die, literally, you threw yourself off of a building, splatted on the ground, they put you in a rehab center, and you come back to life, you wouldn't be afraid of death. You wouldn't really worry about it. But
I'm sure it would still hurt.
Well,
but,
of course it would. But it would be the new thrill seeker thing to do, is to throw yourself off a building. I don't know. That's part of this whole concept.
I would still want to avoid that, because, like I said, I'm sure that would still hurt a lot.
Okay, but if this happened, and that's basically in this world, the human population would boost to a point where it's impossible to manage. So you have to realize
nobody died off.
You have to realize that there is a particular amount of people that is a sustainable amount for this world for people to live in. So you have to basically call the masses. So they have to recruit people to do the job of a reaper, to go kill people. And so in this book, it's about a couple of kids that are recruited into being a scythe, which is a respected position in the world. Respected in the sense of, I don't want to mess with that guy. He can choose who to kill whenever. And some scythes choose to kill based on, this person looks like they're not enjoying their life anymore. They should be put down, essentially. Or revenge, or money, or, what reasons would you want to call this particular person? They don't call it calling. I forgot what they call it. But it's just the odd concept of what a world would be like in that sense. And I thought that was very unique, and so that's why I picked it up.
And I'll get around to it.
I keep trying to convince him to read it, but until he got the audiobook.
And I've got the audiobook. I just haven't reached that point in my audiobook queue yet. I'm listening to like I said, other
But can
stuff.
you imagine having that job? If
But
like
I'll
it's
get
your
to it.
job to
Well,
learn.
and as you were explaining it to me when you were reading it, it reminded me of another series of, an odd job, of a similar type, and that's that came out in the first book in the series, Hit by Delilah S. Dawson.
Yeah. And I've read
in
the
that
first
world,
two of those.
basically the banks have taken over and have started forcefully collecting debts.
Yeah, this one's a little. That one's a little
may have
out
somebody show up on your doorstep as a collector for the bank to collect on your debt. They show up and say, "You owe $30,000, in your school loans.
You're behind in your payments.
You need to pay in full now."
Yeah, how
And
often
if
that
you
would
can't,
happen.
if you can't pay, then you have two options. You can either become a collector for the bank and work off your debt that way by going around and collecting debts from other people, or they kill you on the spot.
Yeah, it's kind of an extreme sense of.
And
no, it's not. We're not going to ruin your credit report. We're going to ruin your life.
Yeah. If you choose to go out and collect for them, then you go out to other people's houses and say, "Hey, you owe X amount in debt. Pay up, or I'm going to kill you."
I'm going to have to do this, And I mean, it's that each book has
It's
that sense of that
another
emotional and moral judgment.
Very odd job where, suddenly your job is to go out and kill people.
Yeah, and do you want to do this or do you want to forfeit your life? I mean, that's kind of the push and pull through both books, actually.
And Hit was the first book. The second book was Strike. Waiting on the third book. But Delilah does an excellent job in the writing of.
I love
and creation
Delilah's
of this
books.
book. Delilah's awesome. Follow her on Twitter. She is incredibly creative, funny, snarky, sarcastic, silly.
Yeah, so I mean, a very great modern author, and
Yes.
she's done comic books, hasn't she?
She has Sparrowhawk, her own creation, comic out. IDW has started doing some licensed Marvel stuff, and she's writing the new Adventures of Spider-Man comic for IDW.
I didn't know that.
Yes, she's
cool.
writing it. So Delilah's writing Spider-Man.
That snarky
looks
personality of hers is going to be
fantastic,
great
yes.
in Spider-Man. I know it now.
She's got several other book series out. Her Blood series.
Well, and the one book that we read this year that is brand new from this year that I loved was Kill the Farm Boy, which was
a collaboration between Delilah S. Dawson and Kevin Hearne. Another one of our favorite authors.
Yeah, Kevin Hearne is just fantastic as well. But Kill the Farm Boy is it's how do you explain it? It's a very Terry Pratchett
fantasy satire,
Monty Python humor, kind of fantasy satire of fairy tales, basically.
Yes.
But it's a little bit of an adventure it's the world of Pell, which is the world it's in.
Yes.
And I don't want to spoil it. You really, really should pick it up or listen to the audiobook or something of this book. It's
sort of in their
hilarious.
own words, they take all of the normal standard fantasy tropes and flip them.
Yeah, I mean,
flip them upside down, backwards, and every which way.
I remember reading their Twitter posts of how they were laughing hysterically when they would keep passing the book back and forth as they were writing it.
Yeah, one would write a chapter, send it off to the other,
and they would add additions to it.
And they would read, the new chapter and then write the next chapter based on what the other wrote, and it went back and forth this way.
And they would explain that they were just almost going to pee themselves laughing.
Yes,
so
laughing
hard
at each other's
chapters.
writing, and it is hilariously fantastic. Oh. And I had listened, to the audio book of it, and the audiobook is narrated by Luke Daniels, he's
a great audiobook.
A fantastic audiobook. Voice actor. He also does all of the audiobook narration for Kevin Hearne's other series, the Iron Druid series. And
the Iron Druid series is very good as well.
Is a great book series. I'd started off reading it, in print. flipping through the paperbacks. By the time I got through the third, to the fourth book, I decided, like I said earlier, due to convenience, to start listening to the audiobooks. And listened, to, Luke Daniels reading the book and just fell in love with the duo. Mm-hmm. It is, the perfect, match of author and narrator.
And sometimes you get that with audiobooks.
Due to, the voice and personality that Luke Daniels gives to the characters in the book. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. And, it is so well done that I would rather listen to the audiobook of that series than sit and flip through the print version now, and because of just how well he reads Kevin's writing.
Luke Daniels does just a fantastic voice acting of the main character and his dog and everyone else, because the Druid series, just for a quick summary, is a 3,000-year-old, the original,
on the last living Druid on Earth, and he is over 2,000 years old.
And he makes a great cup of tea.
Yes.
Which is how he lives so long.
Yes, his immortality.
Yes. And he has the ability to extend his dog's life as well. Like most of us who are dog lovers would love to extend your dog's life.
His sidekick, Oberon.
But he has a mental connection with him, too. So he gets to talk to his dog. And that's what is the most hilarious voices
through that mental
ever.
Sort of psychic connection, his dog, Oberon, can talk back to him. Mm-hmm. And Oberon has an incredible personality and
has his own little adventures and love of sausage and all kinds of silliness that is just, it makes the books even more entertaining.
Yes.
So, I can't recommend it enough.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Kevin's writing is fantastic. It is so smooth and fluid. It's very easy to kind of get lost in the reading.
And he does references pop culture in his comparisons and in the books too. So
he'll
it's very
reference modern
series.
Pop culture and pop culture that was modern, say back in 1860.
Yes,
because,
yes.
Back in the 1400s and what was cool and hip, in 1280, and
that's
all this other stuff, because he's that old and
he's a very modernized character.
It's great.
So,
yeah, he's got friends that are werewolves and, had friends that were vampires and, deals with, the, old, Celtic gods, that really exist.
And the gods that don't like him very much. And, it's a very fun series. And like I said,
yes,
I can't
very,
recommend
very fun and highly recommended.
Another very fun series. We're talking about the comparison of audio actors that make a book more fun.
Yes,
is the White Trash Zombie series that I've recommended to a couple of people this year to go get.
Yes,
because
another fantastic
Allison
series.
McLemore is
Allison McLemore does
voice actor,
the narration for the audiobooks, and
her twang and just Louisiana style of talking like
this
the character
is
fantastic.
Is based in Louisiana. The first book was titled "My Life as a White Trash Zombie,"
and the only reason
funny in itself.
The only reason I ever picked up that book is because of the cover. If you go look up the cover, it is a bright pink cover of this scrawny, tattooed, spiky-haired chick.
She's got a spiky
with a broken
mohawk,
cigarette in her mouth.
And just looks like this white trash mohawk chick. And basically it's this
it's sort of girl that had
a trash chick that got
trashy life that
got into an accident due to sort of an attempted.
Let's not go into that. Well, it's too specific. But she got into an accident and somebody turned her
into a zombie to keep her from dying.
Yeah, and so when you wake up in the hospital and you realize I've got a hunger that's not normal.
Yeah.
What happens?
And they get really scientific about it without really spoiling. Weird. It's explained that it's a zombie parasite that infects the body. That
it's a dumbed down generalization she uses for that. Yeah.
Keeps them alive.
But you have to feed it.
The parasite requires sustenance, which happens to be brain matter.
So working in a morgue is kind of the ideal way. I mean, very much similar to the TV series. Like that.
Well, it was, kind of, very similar. In fact, there were arguments, and I think almost a lawsuit over iZombie.
Yeah, how iZombie might have been inspired by White Trash Zombie.
Like a ripoff of, My Life as a White Trash Zombie.
It's not exact because there's no white trashiness involved, which is part of the quirk and fun of this book.
But very similar, that as long as she keeps the parasite fed, she can kind of live a normal life and seems like a normal, regular person.
Yeah, she can eat like normal.
When the parasite gets hungry, and if it starts starving and gets down to the point where it's starving, that's whenever
it feeds on you, sort of thing, and you start
rotting, falling apart and rotting because it can't maintain the body,
and losing your brain and mind.
Yeah, when they turn into just the unintelligible shambling mess.
Yeah.
That just goes, chasing down
Walking
people
Dead on someone.
To force feed, yes.
Totally, yeah, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, another great series, and like I said, Allison McLemore does a fantastic job, narrating it. Another great combination is James Marsters.
Oh yeah, because he narrates the
Dresden Files.
Dresden Files series.
And if you're trying to place the name, he was Spike on Buffy and Angel.
Yes. And he reads all of the Dresden Files audiobooks, which is the ideal way.
Did a stint on
to catch up on those books
on Torchwood.
Because there's a ton of those, I think. I mean,
there's
I haven't
12, 14,
read
15
all of them.
books.
We're like
I'm
on
not fully caught
number
up.
6 maybe.
But the Dresden Files is a great series, and he does a fantastic job narrating those books. Adding a bit of humor and snark, to Jim Butcher's, writing, and
it's a great combination. And that was actually the last audiobook that I ever read, because that was the one. Well, not
last audiobook you read, really?
Okay, wait, that doesn't make sense. The last audiobook I heard
that you listened
was that
to.
One.
Yes, and we listened to that
on our road trip
vacation. Back in September, we celebrated our 20th anniversary. Been married 20 years, and for our anniversary, we took a week off and went on a massive, 9-day road trip.
This concept came up, I think I was half asleep one day, and I woke up and I go, wouldn't it be funny if we went on we went on a road trip and hit 20 states for our 20 years? That'd be hilarious. And you were like,
yeah, that's
okay,
doable.
Let's do it.
Sat down and, mapped it out. We decided what places we wanted to hit.
Not that we're going to stay in every state,
go see.
but
but we passed
the corner, take a picture of the you just now entered blah, blah, blah state.
We took off from here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, where we live. Traveled
straight
up
through Oklahoma.
North through Oklahoma.
Skirted the corner of Kansas.
Through Kansas. Went through St. Louis. Saw the arch in St. Louis. Went all the way up,
to
weaving
Ohio.
through, states through Ohio, and, went to Cleveland. Went
Specifically
to
go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which
I
really had always wanted to go to.
Which was very cool.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was amazing.
From there, we traveled up to Niagara Falls.
Yes.
Saw the falls.
It was a great experience.
You see pictures of it and you're like, oh, it's just a big waterfall.
It's a big waterfall.
You see it and it's a lot more impressive than you would think it would be just from looking at the pictures.
Seeing a giant natural phenomenon in its just awesomeness.
And the observation platform you can stand on is it feels like it's almost within arm's reach of the edge of the water. It's 5 feet from where the water drops off the falls. It's really close.
And then way down below, you see the tiny boats.
Yes.
And you realize how tall that is. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, I'm stepping away.
But it was very impressive. From there, we traveled down through New York, stopped off.
We went to Syracuse first.
And stopped off at the Hercules Candy Company.
Which we started watching their YouTube channel this year.
I do stuff like fudge and the baking and stuff. And I had started watching their series of videos on YouTube, from the Hercules Candy Company. So we stopped off there to
just had to get some real chocolate.
Kind of a little meet and greet and bought some of their candy. Mm-hmm. We traveled on from there into Hoboken, New Jersey. Stopped off at Carlo's Bakery.
because we had to.
The Cake Boss. Loved, that series.
Things that you watch and see, and you're like, if I ever get a chance to go, let's go there.
Some authentic, Carlos Bakery,
which leads us
cakes and
to our next destination is we went through went through New York to New Jersey to go to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash.
Yep.
We're like, we made it. We've been here.
To the Secret Stash, bought some comics, souvenirs.
Took some pictures. It was a really quick stop. And then,
from there we traveled down through
Pennsylvania to go see the Liberty Bell.
Through Philly, stopped off, at saw the Liberty Bell.
Because you got to hit some historical stops occasionally. You got to see some history.
Exactly.
Had
stopped off there, traveled down to D.C., spent a day in D.C., went to the Smithsonian, Air and Space Museum, the Natural History Museum.
D.C. is a location that is necessary to have more than one day to do.
Yes, if you want to hit all of the branches of the Smithsonian, you would need a couple of days.
Not even just that, but to see all of it. I mean, to step in all the monuments, locations.
We drove around, saw, the Washington, monument.
We did a quick tour.
The Jefferson, Memorial, Lincoln, the Lincoln Memorial, all of those.
The Natural History Museum was my stop of choice.
Drove past the Arlington National Cemetery. Mm-hmm. Ended up looping around due to just how horrible the traffic is in D.C. We'd looped around the Pentagon twice. But, saw all of the, all the various, monuments. And like I said, hit a couple of the museums, which was very, very cool. When you go into the, Air and Space Museum and see some of the, authentic, real, 80s era nuclear missiles they've got,
they're very impressive in person. I mean, just
very big and very
monumentally impressive. And a little scary at the same time because you realize what they are.
Yeah, that you're standing next to,
I'm standing next to a nuke.
Nuclear ballistic missile. Yeah.
Yeah. So we hot-footed out of DC as quick as we could as soon as we got out of traffic, and headed
down to Atlanta.
We headed through some very amazing scenery.
Well, because we had debated changing up our itinerary and
a couple of times,
changing the order, and as such, we left and got 4 or 5 hours out of DC, and then decided to go back to our original plan, and which turned us back down towards Atlanta. So we cut through North and South Carolina.
Yeah, and I specifically wanted to go through the Appalachian Mountain area.
Beautiful scenery.
The George Bush Park
this was post hurricane.
Yeah.
So everything was incredibly green and, I mean, just gorgeous
We avoided
scenery.
the very wrong direction. We avoided the very far east coast because of after the hurricanes that hit North Carolina real bad. So we just were like, let's avoid all of that.
But it was a beautiful drive.
But
through
watching the rolling
hills and all the green,
the fog
forest,
coming off the hills, and we drove through some very dense forests. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, and sometimes you just got to get out there and experience something new you've never done before. And that was one of the reasons I picked some byways.
That led us down to Atlanta, where we went to the Coca-Cola Museum, the World of Coke, which was educational. And at the end of that tour through, you get to taste test.
They have a whole room
all the various Coca-Cola products from around the world.
Yeah, they have a whole room full of dispensaries where you can grab a little cup and you can sip and sip and sip any possible drink they make.
Yeah, all of the Coke products from around the world.
Depending on your palate, some of them are disgusting.
Yeah, some of them were just...
But some were delicious. I mean, I think it just depends on your personal preference.
Yeah, some of them were really, really good. Some of them I could have done without.
Yeah, so at your own risk, try all of them.
But that was very cool.
That was Atlanta. And then we skirted... the next day we drove up to Nashville.
Went to the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah, if we're going to do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we're going to do the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Which, again, another one that was really cool.
It wasn't as good as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
It's not
in my own
as
opinion.
structured chronologically as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I think they
because they have things, like I said, structured chronologically, where you start off in the 50s at the very roots of where rock and roll
was inspired,
came from, where it was inspired by
blues
R&B and the blues,
yeah,
and how it evolved. Through the years from the 50s into the 60s and the 70s. It has
a natural progression
and,
through
80s
the entire
through,
museum.
all the hair metal
the
and
Rock and Roll
various,
Hall of Fame does.
Yeah.
But the country music is like in clumps of this type of artist, that type of artist, this type of area. It's just different. And I think if they streamlined it, it would be amazing.
It was not so much, like I said, a chronological history of country music, but just a collection of memorabilia.
Yeah.
Like some of Elvis's actual cars are on display there. A lot of, guitars and outfits and suits from like Hank Williams Sr.
Well,
and some of the great legends of country music.
In the essence of things, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a collection of items as well, but it did have kind of a storytelling aspect to it.
Like I said, of the evolution of rock and roll, where it came from.
They had all the British rock together and all the 80s rock together and all, so it was, you got to see and experience a lot of different things in one little exhibit instead of this is all Patsy Cline, which was country music at the time.
But it was still an impressive, a lot of history and, of the memorabilia, like I said, of seeing, Elvis's, gold Cadillac, that's got like the hood ornament and, the side mirrors and the door handles that are all gold plated, and things like that. It was very, very cool.
The hee-haw area was like the really weirdest area.
Yeah. They had one of the actual Trans Ams from Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, yeah, that's
on
true.
display there that Jerry Reed actually bought after they were done with the movie, and he owned it, for a while, and it's on display.
He donated,
yes, which was just incredible. I love Smokey and the Bandit, big fan of all the movies, and being able to stand there basically arm's length away from one of the
it is very
original legendary Trans Ams from the movie was pretty damn cool. But yeah, they had a lot of stuff like that. I mean.
But so that, it took us a lot, like a week, right? A week to drive the whole thing.
8 days. We had intended to go from Nashville we drove through Memphis, but we had intended to stop.
Originally, we were going to stop
off in Memphis and go to Graceland.
Yeah.
But, due to time
and weather.
We didn't have the time, to stop. So we'll have to, cover Graceland in another, trip. But it was incredible. We, hit 20 states.
It was the trip
in a matter of 8 days. And
it's a trip of a lifetime to do something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have a decently gassed car that doesn't chew up gas mileage too badly, you can make the trip without spending too much money. It's, in the very least, something you can
it depends on where you want to stay.
Well, that's true.
We stopped off, and got a motel every night,
You could have camped out and made it fairly inexpensive, but
if you wanted to hit, like campgrounds everywhere and have to take the time to unpack it and set up a tent every night, you could,
I guess
do that
if we had an
cheaper.
RV, that would have been a lot easier.
Well, it would have been a lot more expensive because RVs guzzle gas.
Well, no, but you wouldn't have had to pay for a hotel night.
Well,
so
you would
maybe
have
the trade-off.
Do a comparison of what the.
If I had unlimited funds, we would have just bought a driver or something.
To how much the gas would cost in an RV, or renting a bus and.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
and going that route.
If we had unlimited funds, we decided we would hire a driver of an RV.
Yeah.
And.
Well, and the next big one we're talking about is doing, the western half of the country.
Yeah, we got the other
half. We
can
shoot up north and go up to the Dakotas and see Mount Rushmore. And we can go through Yellowstone and go see the Grand Canyon and Hoover Dam. And
I've always wanted to drive to Seattle, too.
We'll
just
go through Vegas
again.
See it. And San Francisco. And places, like go to Seattle and
Lake Tahoe. I've always thought that was beautiful.
Go up through there and down through, the Sequoia National Forest, drive down, the Pacific Coast Highway, down from, go to, San Francisco, see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
Drive down, the coastal highway, you go down to, San Diego and see like the big naval yard, there in San Diego, which I have seen, from back whenever I lived in California.
I've never seen that area before.
Through LA, you can go see the big Hollywood sign, which I've seen.
I have seen that as well.
But,
I do remember seeing that. I was probably like 10.
Yeah, you can go
I've been
Malibu
there
Beach, all the historical, pier and see all of that stuff and go through, like I said, Arizona for,
There's always places you want to go and the things you want to do in your life. And this is like, okay, things you always want to do and always think about doing.
Yeah.
I think that's what's brought us back to this podcast.
Yeah.
Is, to be honest, I mean, just to kind of wrap it up a bit, we used to do radio. We used to do stuff. What do we want to do now? So this is what we want to do now.
Yeah, revisiting some of the things we've done that we enjoyed doing, and
we just want to have fun with this. This is we're here to entertain, maybe educate, maybe have some fun, get creative, and see what happens.
Yeah, drag you along for the ride.
Drag you, but not kicking and screaming. Hopefully, but if you need to scream at us, we'll find a way for you to do that, like via tweets or Facebook.
I'd rather not be screamed at, but
Let's not do some screaming. Gentle comments. No, that's not what the internet's for, is it? The internet's not for gentle comments. The internet's for screaming. And I was going to say something wrong, but
yeah, depending on who you talk to and who you ask, everyone knows that the internet's for porn.
I was about to say that,
but
it's like maybe we're not going to go there, ever. No, not on the air.
Not on the air, not on the show. No.
Okay.
That.
All right. Well, this
is not a visual medium. It's an audio medium.
It could be visual. Never mind. All right. Well. Once again, I am Cowpatty.
And I am Cowmando.
And we will catch you guys later at another time.
Have a good one.